Hey, greetings, everyone. Lieutenant Colonel Alan West here, and welcome to the Steadfast and Loyal podcast.
You gotta light 'em up before they burn it down. Better dig deep and put 'em in the ground. Blood on their hands, they're hellbound. Save us all. Ooh, they're gonna burn it down. Save us all before they burn it down.
You know, it's been a while since I've had the opportunity to get here behind the microphone and share thoughts, perspectives, and insights with you. I will tell you that last week, this time, I was heading down to Brunswick, Georgia for the Golden Isles Veterans Village. We had a motorcycle ride to support them. It was pretty hot, riding the motorcycle from Garland, Texas down to Brunswick, but it was a nice ride. I especially loved going across US Highway 82 from Montgomery, Alabama, over to Brunswick because it took me across Lake Eufaula as you entered into Georgia, and that's where I learned to fish as a little boy. Took me through Cuthbert, Georgia, Randolph County. That's where my dad grew up, and zipped by my grandpa's house there, and it was just nice going Dawson, Albany, Tifton, going through all of those towns that I remembered growing up, Sylvester. And also to have an opportunity to help to raise funds for a veterans transition village there in Brunswick, Georgia, the Golden Isles Veterans Village. So important because when you think about, homeless veterans, that should not happen in the United States of America. We should be making sure that our veterans are taken care of. Jobless vets, no. And so I'm pretty happy to see that President Trump is going to really be pushing to get more of our veterans out there driving trucks instead of illegal immigrants who are out there killing Americans. We know what happened in Pennsylvania. We know what happened in Florida with the family down there. So it's been a great week. And again, getting out on the motorcycle is fantastic. Another thing that we have happening here locally, Private Isabella Gonzalez, young 19-year-old soldier that lost her life during that ballistic missile attack in Jordan. She's from Carrollton, Texas. My church, Sojourn Church, is located in Carrollton, Texas. We're doing some things to support the family, and there's also a memorial motorcycle ride for her. I'll be participating in that. So that's been keeping me a little busy. But what I want to talk to you all about is something near and dear to my heart. As I sit here on Thursday, the 30th of July, taping this podcast, tomorrow, it'll be Friday, the 31st of July, 2026, marks 44 years since when I took the oath of office as a commissioned officer the first time in the United States Army. That happened 31 July 1982 at the University of Tennessee Stokely Athletic Center. Dad was at the right shoulder, mom was at the left shoulder, depending on those second lieutenant bars. And when I think about the path that it put me on, when I think about the words that I said, that I, Alan Bernard West, do solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I'll bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely without any purpose of evasion or mental reservation. I mean, the words that we utter, all of us veterans, when we say that, it continues on through our lives. And again, I'm going to reflect back on that. 44 years since I took that oath the first time. I took it with each promotion. I stood there and listened to the Speaker of the House, John Boehner, at the time, say those words, and I held up my hand, which I found very weird when I was in Congress, that we don't recite that oath. Each one of us should. We're lawmakers. and we should take that oath. We should profess it. And so that's why when I see these individuals, especially at the federal government level, these quote unquote Democrat socialists of America running for office, this whole Democratic socialist thing, forget it. They're Marxists. And just recently, Shannon Bream had the co chair of the DSA on her Sunday morning program. When you understand the oath that I took 44 years ago and what this woman sitting there with Shannon Bream professed that and confirmed and affirmed as being part of the DSA platform, we're talking about people that are promoting things that are a threat to our Constitution. And I took an oath to support and defend the Constitution. I took an oath to support and defend that Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And I said that I would bear true faith and allegiance to the same. And so when I peel the onion back on these Marxists, because that's who they are, and if you have never read the Communist Manifesto, 1848, by Karl Marx and Frederick Engels, you need to. But if anything, just go through, and this is something that I keep on my desk in my office at home. Karl Marx's 10 plans to seize power and destroy freedom. That's what it's all about. That's what Marxism is all about. In this 250th year of America's independence, we're talking about a country that was founded on a premise unlike any other country that the world has ever known, that the individual is sovereign because your rights come from a sovereign God, the Judeo-Christian faith heritage God. Your life, your liberty, your property. John Locke, Natural Rights Theory, 1689. And that's who Jefferson studied. That's who Jefferson invoked when he said the laws of nature, nature's God. So that is what founded us. The individual, rights, freedoms, liberties. The government, the institution of government is here. The individual is here. Marxism inverts that relationship. And you don't believe me? Again, go back and just remember that line from Zoran Mamdani's inaugural speech in January of this year. We will replace the frigidity of rugged individualism with the warmth of collectivism. That's some serious Marxist caca, bovine excrement. But that is where we are in America today. So the 10 planks to seize power and destroy freedom. Abolition of property and land and application of all rents of land to public purpose. They don't like private property. As a matter of fact, this housing czar or whatever, czarina, or whatever he calls a C.O. Weaver in the Mamdani administration, she said that home ownership is a tool of white supremacy. Now, I'm not white. I'm not a well, Joe Biden said I'm not really black, so I guess I am confused, or he's confused. But I own a home. My dad owned his home. So what are they talking about? What they want you to understand is that they don't like you, the American citizen, the American individual, to have private property. And just recently, we saw the mayor of New York, Mamdani, putting out the names and addresses of people that own, what, $1 million apartments and higher. Well, that's not his business. But if you're a Marxist and you hate private property, that is your business. You want to confiscate private property. You want to undermine private property rights. You want to now unleash the street gangs of the Marxists, the new brown shirts, being it Antifa, Black Lives Matter, whomever, to go after these people. And oh, by the way, remember they're in New York City. They have some pretty stringent gun control laws. So these people are sitting ducks. I got to tell you, if I lived in New York City after the mayor, put my address and everything out there, I wouldn't care. I'm going to find a weapon, and I'm going to make sure that I'm armed. because that's what the whole thing about the Second Amendment was about, to protect your life, your liberty, or your property. And when the government fails to do so, you have to do so. When you have a government like what we see with these Marxists coming into power under this DSA banner, they believe that they have the right to take away your property. A heavy progressive or graduated income tax. Prior to the Woodrow Wilson administration, I mean, everything was done by consumption-based taxation. The institution of, and Woodrow Wilson is called the first American progressive administration, presidential administration. And where does this word progressive come from? Well, European communists had to rebrand themselves, better marketing. So they didn't want to call themselves communists. They called themselves progressives. And look what has happened ever since. I mean, this income tax thing was supposed to be temporary, only to support the efforts of World War I. But now it's become a weapon of mass destruction because that's how Marx saw it. When Barack Obama is there with Joe the plumber, he says, I believe that it's all, really good when we spread the wealth around. It's better for everybody. Well, it was Karl Marx who said, from each according to their ability, to each according to their need. That's what these people are about. So this Democrat socialist thing, they're Marxists. And oh, by the way, this whole thing about, well, we Democrats, we really don't want that. Of course you do. If they see this as a means by which they can get power and control, they can get a majority up there in the House and the Senate, they don't mind supporting them. As a matter of fact, these people are running under the banner of the party of the jackass. They're not running on a separate party, banner. They have their own little platform, but they're running as Democrats with this platform, the Marxist platform. Abolition of all rights of inheritance. That's the state tax. That's what these people want. They want to take away your property. They want to continue to tax it. They want to continue to tax you. I mean, it's incredible. Extension of factories and instruments of production owned by the state. Bernie Sanders comes out and says that the government should own 50% of the AI industry. That's nationalization of economic production. That's the socialist economic model. Wealth redistribution, nationalizing economic production, creating and expanding a welfare nanny state. We're going to give all this stuff to everybody for free. Social egalitarianism, everybody, equity, quality of outcomes, not equality of opportunity. Because Marxism has two subsidiaries. Marxism has an economic model, which is socialism, and it has a societal model, which is communism. And as Vladimir Lenin said, the end goal of socialism is communism. So that's who these people are. That's who Karl Marx was, and Lenin, and Stalin, Mao, Pol Pot, Castro, Hugo Chavez, Nicolas Maduro, the Ortegas, Sandinistas, Shining Path. I can go ad nauseum, ad infinitum. But we got to understand that. We got to see that. Free education for all children in public schools and combination of education with industrial production. The first person to ever mention state-controlled education was Karl Marx. We did not have a Department of Education in the United States of America until the Jimmy Carter administration. We had health, education, and welfare, and then the teachers' unions. Oh, by the way, Marx is really big on teachers' unions as well. Unions, period, as well. Extension of factories and instruments of production owned by the states. Equal liability of all to labor, establishment of industrial armies. That's unions. SEIU. Teachers' unions. But the teachers' unions forced Jimmy Carter to break up HEW and separate this thing called Department of Education. And look what is happening to what was once one of the most respected, one of the best systems of education that the world knew. Now we got kids, they can't even read at grade level. We got kids graduating from high school and able to do simple math and read. This is appalling, but that's Marxism. And so when I think about this DSA organization, now they're boasting 120,000 members, all this stuff. And I think about what I said 44 years ago. I don't leave home without this Declaration of Independence and Constitution. Oh, by the way, I'm going to ask you once again, how many of you have read the entire Declaration of Independence? I mean, in this year of our 250th anniversary, read the entire Declaration of Independence. Share it with your children and your grandchildren. It only takes 10 minutes and 31 seconds to read the entire Declaration of Independence, 11 minutes and 18 seconds if you include the 56 signers. But the Constitution of the United States of America. So when these DSA people, Marxists, come up and say, we wanted to get rid of the United States Senate. Well, that completely guts Article 1 of the Constitution. If you want to get rid of the Senate, which is about equal representation in our legislative body at the federal level for all of the states, because every state, no matter how big or small, you get two senators. The House of Representatives, of course, is done by population, which again is the reason why these Marxist leftists wanted to open up our borders so they could flood it in with people into certain areas so they can get more congressional representation in the House of Representatives. That's something that they stated. The only people that should be counted in our census are American citizens. That's not how the Marxists see it. And oh, by the way, that's why the Marxists of the DSA believe that there should only be a House of Representatives. Because what they want is a pure democracy. Our founders did not want a pure democracy. We have a representative democracy. If they want to get rid of the United States Senate and just have representation for this entire country based upon population, then you don't have equal representation across the country, and you have decimated Article 1. Strike one against these Marxists when it comes to their constitutionality. Then they want to get rid of the quote-unquote executive branch. Article 2 of the Constitution. We don't need a president. And oh, by the way, we're going to have the House of Representatives that they're going to try to dominate because they want everything done by population. They're going to select quote unquote, who the executive is. Really? Not the people? No, just this Marxist dominated legislative body. And oh, by the way, the other thing about these Marxists is that they're signing on to something called the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact. National Popular Vote Interstate Compact. The most recent state to sign on to that is the state of Virginia, which I find very interesting because Virginia produced the authors of the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, but Abigail Spanberger signed this thing, which says that these states, all blue states, I think it's 17 of them to include the District of Columbia, these states, when it comes to a presidential election, they're not going to give their electors to who wins their state in a presidential election. No, their electors will go to whoever wins the national popular vote. Completely, once again, undermining our Constitution because they don't like the Electoral College. They don't like equal representation. They don't like other states to have a seat at the table. They just want the populous blue states, mostly. That's why they're after Texas so bad. But they want those populous blue states to dominate. So we gut Article 1 because you want to get rid of the Senate. You want to remake the United States House of Representatives. You completely get rid of Article 2. We don't have a president. You don't have an executive. And then they say we're going to get rid of the Supreme Court. So Article 3. This 3 strikes, you're out. I don't understand how we could elect people to go to Washington, D.C. What are they going to take an oath to? Because what they're saying is that they want to decimate this. So how do you take an oath to support and defend the Constitution? How do you take an oath to uphold the law of the land? When you say, I don't care about it. They say they want open borders. Well, go to Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution, known as the Guarantee Clause. Guarantee Clause. Two things that the federal government is supposed to guarantee to every state in the union. Number one, a Republican form of government. What these Marxists are talking about is not a republic. They're not even talking about a constitutional monarchy. They're talking about a one-party rule. Marxist rule. So forget that. Then the other part, the other thing that the federal government is supposed to guarantee to every state and union is to protect them from invasion. These people want open borders. They don't even believe in the sovereignty of the United States of America. We're just a piece of land in between Mexico, Canada, and between two really big things of water. And I'm sure the Gulf of America will be changed back to Gulf of Mexico, or, if that. So how can we have people that want to serve as elected officials in this country, but yet they don't even believe in the country? They don't believe the country should exist. They want to get rid of the Pentagon. So no Department of War, no Department of Defense. The Constitution of the United States of America, in the preamble, it lists those things which are what I call the strategic imperatives. The strategic imperatives for the United States of America, for the federal government. And you can see my thing is old. It's all highlighted. So I had to be very careful because I don't want it to fall apart. But here it is. We, the people of the United States of America, in order to form a more perfect union. These people don't care about a more perfect union. Here are the strategic imperatives: establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility. Oh, so if you have open borders, you want to get rid of the, ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement. You're not talking about domestic tranquility. You're talking about anarchy. You're talking about anybody coming in here. There's no law to violate. I mean, because right now, Title 18, United States Code 1325 says unauthorized entry to the United States of America is a federal offense. First time misdemeanor, subsequent times felony. They don't care about that. They want to get rid of prisons. They want people, there's no such thing as crime. So they're not talking about ensuring domestic tranquility. But here's the thing: provide for the common defense. Provide for the common defense. That's one of the strategic imperatives of the federal government. That's out of the Constitution, which they're throwing out the window anyhow. So these people want us to collapse internally and externally. Heck, the next thing you know, the enemies of the United States of America, Iran can just march right on in and take over. Why? Because they don't want us to have the ability to defend ourselves. They don't believe in the Second Amendment. They don't want police. They don't want prisons. They don't want borders. What the heck do they want? And there are actually people voting for these idiots who are sitting here saying, screw the Constitution, screw the United States of America. We don't like it. We hate it. Why don't you move to North Korea? Have a great time. Move to China and see what your social score is over there. But no, they want to take the greatest nation that the world has ever known in 250 years, and they want to completely destroy it. As a matter of fact, one of those Democrat Socialists of America, Marxists, who just won a congressional primary in New York, she's part of an organization that says they want to eradicate Western civilization and the United States of America. Now, what kind of useful idiot, termed by Vladimir Lenin, would vote for someone like that? So this is where we are. It is not so much about Republican or Democrat anymore. It is really about how do we see the relationship between the individual and the institution of government. The Declaration of Independence from 250 years ago clearly outlines that. And from the Declaration of Independence, you get the Constitution of the United States of America, which is a restraining document on the enumerated powers of the federal government. Remember what it says in the last amendment of our Bill of Rights, the 10th Amendment, all of those powers. Well, maybe I should just read it because, some of y'all may have never gone into, the Declaration of Independence or the Constitution. So why don't I just read it? Here we go. 10th Amendment. And it says, the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. It's called federalism. But these people, these Marxists or the Democrat Socialists of America, that's what they're trying to cutely rename themselves, progressives, whatever, communists, they want to completely destroy this document. The document that 44 years ago, I took an oath to support and defend. Other members of my family took an oath to support and defend. Many men and women that we call veterans took an oath to support and defend. But they don't care. They don't see this as the shining city that sits upon a hill, as Ronald Reagan talked about. Does America have some warts? Absolutely. But show me another nation where a kid born in a segregated hospital can be sitting here and talking to you right now, to have had the opportunity to be a lieutenant colonel in the United States Army when his dad was just a corporal in a segregated army in World War II, to have the opportunity to serve in the House of Representatives and represent a district that at the time was the highest per capita income zip code in the United States of America. And oh, by the way, there was a little house in the congressional district that I was honored to represent, a little house called Mar-a-Lago. The guy, the 45th and 47th president of the United States of America, was once a constituent of mine, just the same as the great conservative icon Rush Limbaugh was a constituent of mine. That happens in the United States of America because we believe in the individual. That happens in the United States of America because we believe in making victors, not creating victims. But Marxism cannot exist unless it has victims. As Sir Winston Churchill so aptly stated, that socialism is a philosophy of failure. It's a creed of ignorance, and it's the gospel of envy. That's what these Marxists are preaching here in this incredible nation that we call the United States of America, where we cheer on the champions. The losers have an opportunity. They get out there on the same field. We don't believe in trying to manipulate outcomes, not for sports teams, and we shouldn't have that for individuals. If you are truly going to be steadfast and loyal, you need to read the Declaration of Independence. 10 minutes, 31 seconds if you just read the Declaration, 11 minutes and 18 seconds if you include the names of the 56 signers. You need to read, study, and understand the Constitution of the United States of America. Why? Because we have a domestic enemy. It hurts my heart to say it, but we have a domestic enemy that wants to destroy the very foundation and fabric of this nation. They would rather follow Karl Marx than Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, John Jay, Alexander Hamilton, or George Washington. And I say that we make a stand in this, the 250th year of our anniversary of independence, or else we will relegate our future generations to a vicious, deplorable cycle of dependence. And that's not what people who are steadfast and loyal would allow to happen. God bless.
Before they burn it down.